Welcome, welcome. I didn't see a bunch of chat messages. I turn around, there's a bunch. Thanks everybody for coming in and joining. I don't think I have any programming notes today. Oh, yes, I do. Well, just one. Somehow I missed it, but I guess last week or thereabouts, I published, I guess I went over 500 videos posted to the channel, which is kind of crazy to think about that. Yeah, there's enough videos in there for someone to watch one a day and be able to go for a year, a year and a half. Not to say that someone should do that, but if they wanted to, they could, which is kind of crazy, but it's sort of a big milestone, I guess. And we're also sneaking towards let's see, we're at what? This is number 46, I think. So we'll be up to getting into that a year's worth of weekly roundups pretty soon. So fun stuff there. But that's all I got. It's Friday. Happy Friday, everybody. I'm just pulling up the OSRs. Now, I did look at some of the stuff yesterday. I was bored last night. My wife was on a baking craze, helping out a friend of ours with a bake sale. Baked a ton of stuff, so I was just kind of fiddle-faddling around the internet. My concern was, and we'll see if this bears out or not, I did not find a whole lot of interest. So hopefully this won't be... I felt like we struggled last time. With this finding stuff. So hopefully we'll find some things. Hopefully some stuff's been posted. You'll see where I was going through and kind of upvoting stuff. Just sort of because. Hey, Tonka Todd is here. Team Todd. Hashtag Team Todd in full effect. Awesome. And hey, Marcello and Krister and Oval Team Patrol. Brian Smith. Oh, look at that. I had an appointment. It got rescheduled. Awesome. You get to slide in the weekend. That's very nice. Lemon Friday. I don't know. Hope it's not a lemon Friday. So let's see. I might rely even more than normal on folks here in the chat to drive us forward. We're in the hot tab. Let's see. When people post their creations, I just go ahead and upvote them. Really doesn't matter. I want people to post their stuff. I want people to feel good about posting their stuff, and the fact that they're posting it at all is good. This one is, I saw people were posting their campaign maps. Here's a map of their OSE campaign. The map outside of these mountains is deliberately blank, so I can add whatever terrain I like whenever the players discover. That's cool. Just take a look. I'm gonna guess this is maybe Hexographer Classic. I wonder what scale it is. Oh no. I don't know why when they give me the view that's supposed to be in that kind of Reddit's gallery, it's, oh my gosh, 250%. Never mind. Nice mix of stuff. Some settlements, looks like some ruins. I'm guessing those are roads. Puts it in a valley. Pretty cool. It's at the desert. Been through the desert with the horse with no name. Are those hills? Cool. A picturesque Hex Valley, says Oval Team Patrol. Indeed. I gave him an upvote. Great. Here's another one. Boy, a lot of people here are putting in their hex maps, but I'm always game to look at some hex maps. This one's much more artistic. I don't mean that it's nicer, but it's definitely going more with the art vibe. I like the terrain. Whatever they're using, if they're hand-drawn or however they're doing that, nicely done. I like that. I like their forests. On the one hand, I like the red and the white, but it starts to lose that usability because inside now I don't have any indication of the hexes. Yeah, you are cheating, but I do like the art style. And I'm presuming that, oh, I can see there are little corners. Oh, wait a minute. All right, so you see this is, you can see little red marks here on the interior and black marks in some spots where it is showing the edges of the hexes. All right. I mean, it's pretty. If I was putting one in a book, I'd love to have one of this just to have, but then I'd want one that's a little bit more practical from a hex map standpoint. It is hard to make out a bit on stream. Yeah, I think it just that the marks aren't that color, maybe a different color, though. I really like that red and then the white. I don't know why. It just gives me a kind of a vibe that I like. But yeah, I think it's just hard to tell. Maybe obviously potentially you could zoom in a bunch more, and if the person who made the map probably is looking at it can get it. But yeah, yes. But I will upvote it. Someone's making. I already read that one. Nothing really going on there. They just have another map. I already upvoted that. I already upvoted their hex map. This one, I think I read through it. I'll just give it a vote. It's just giving a bunch of, if you want to look at a good set of links for rulebooks that are free, this thread has got that. Questing Beast has their top 50 OSR titles. Great, but I'm not, no concern of mine. This was a nice story. I'm not going to read it, but it's a nice story. Tale of the Manticore, an actual play. All right, a Barrow map. Great, good. Here's one. Maybe we'll get some links here we can go look at. Good dungeon stocking tables. This was posted by Dimlingenrode. They've experimented a bit with stocking dungeons using random tables from a few sources, and the results were pretty lackluster. Has anyone out there made good, interesting, themed, clever dungeon stocking tables? Please share if you know of any. The thing is, and this is, maybe there's a little interesting discussion to be had here, because one of the things I think people do is they go off saying, like, look, I want give me the bestest tables. Give me who's this tables are doing these things that I want. And you spend ages looking for them. And then maybe you find some, but then some have some things you like, and other ones have other things you like, but nothing has exactly the things you like. So you're hemming and hawing and ooh, ah. But the bottom line is, you probably could have, and maybe should have, spent less time trying to find the perfect tables that were done for you. Just create your own tables. It's not that onerous. And then you get exactly what you want. Because whenever you're going through looking at somebody else's tables for somebody else's product or somebody else's adventure, it's going to be rare that those tables line up with exactly what you want. If you know what you want, well, I want some dwarves, and I want some, I want some ogres, and I want some of this, and I want some of that, and this other thing, and this other thing. Just put it all on the table. Done. And then you get exactly what you want. But there seems to be this, I don't know, I mean, maybe I should I know I've been meaning to do as a stream, actually putting together a table. Maybe I just need to do that, because it's really not that hard. And I think people will end up spending way more time searching all over the internet and looking at different things and throwing them away and looking at other things, when it's like, if you just started at the beginning and said, great, I need tables for these particular caves that have these particular creatures that I want in them, and just wrote it out, you'd be done. I don't know. Ovaltine Patrol, going back to that map, says it's reminiscent of Ravenloft with hard borders of death. Yep, that's a good point. Brian Smith says, it's really the beginning of a long path of self-understanding. When somebody says, give me the best table for X. Yep, that's pretty true too. Ian Wise, good morning. Ovaltine Patrol wants to know if they mean dungeon dressing as in random objects, furniture, weird features, and the like. I'm not sure. That's a good question. I think they mean stocking as in encounter type stuff. Dr. Dungeon points out 5e DMG stuff. See, I'd been in here before, so I just upvoted some random comments. This one was good because Tim Bannock asked some good questions, right? What are the issues? What are you trying to solve for? I mean, which is, I think, is ultimately, I wish people on Reddit in these types of questions posts would do a better job of, here's what I'm trying to solve for. Don't just say, well, what is the best? Like, best for what? Like, what are you trying to do? Where are the existing things falling short? You know, what exactly is the thing you're trying to solve with finding new stuff? And then they've talked about using OSCs, how to stock a dungeon. And they got a room with 2 orcs and another with 9 kobolds, 5 rooms of traps, 3 special rooms, 3 empty rooms. That's about 140 gold pieces worth of coins distributed in 4 of the rooms. While I know it is part of down to random dice roll, still feels kind of anemic. 5 rooms of traps, a bit of treasure, 2 groups of monsters, nothing to really push the imagination and build on. See, here's the thing with this. Dimlingenrode, right? Let's just take this as this. So apparently what they've done is they took the OSC, how to stock the dungeon, which we'll look at some point. I didn't even really know it existed, but something maybe down the line we can look at. And they 13 room map, and they use the tables there, which I'm guessing are probably similar to what you get in BX and in AD&D, where you're going to have X amount of empty, X amount traps and monsters, X amount with loot. They rolled it up, and so they got, out of those rooms, They don't tell us which rooms, but 5 rooms that have traps, a bit of treasure. I don't know if the bit of treasure is in the rooms with the traps or not. 2 groups of monsters. And they're saying, yeah, it feels kind of boring. Yeah, I got a couple of I got 2 orcs and 9 kobolds. Boring. Well, maybe it is. Maybe it is. But here's what you have to do, or what you could do. Not saying this would solve your problem, but if the concept is not firing your pushing your imagination, I might say that you really need to give your imagination some extra prompts, because I do think there are things here that you could build on that could be a pretty interesting idea. Now, we don't know what this dungeon is, but we know we've got orcs in it. We know we've got kobolds in it. We know we have traps. If we follow the standard fantasy trope of kobolds as being sort of master traps makers, then maybe they have either fixed and re-implemented some existing traps. We don't know what the dungeon is. Let's say it's an ancient tomb. So maybe the kobolds have found some of those ancient tomb traps, rejiggered them. Maybe some of those traps are of their own design. And some orcs are trying to do basically what the party is coming into. So the party would be coming in to potentially loot the dungeon. The kobolds have made this place their lair. They are not happy that the people are coming, but they're also not happy that these orcs are bumping around in there also. We don't know from the setup if they've determined whether this is the lair of some group of orcs. Well, let's just say it's not. Let's say those orcs are doing similar things to what the party is doing. So now you've taken a static situation, and now we've turned it into a more fluid situation with some dynamics. We have a love triangle, if you will, a looting triangle, in which we have the orcs who are hostile with the kobolds. We're gonna say that existed already, and then the players are stepping in. Are the players going to align themselves with the orcs? Are they going to make friends with the kobolds? Are they going to make enemies of both of them? How are they going to do that? Maybe the orcs, whatever room they turned up in, that they were placed in, ends up being where they're doing a camp. Maybe there used to be more orcs. Maybe it was, in reality, it was 5 orcs versus 9 kobolds, but the kobolds with traps and surprise, potentially, maybe something else, whittled down the orcs from the original 5 to now 2. And when the players stumble upon wherever the orcs are, they see a makeshift camp where the orcs are tending to their wounds, trying to figure out what to do with the dead, that kind of situation. So now you have a really dynamic situation with the players come across the orcs potentially. What condition are the orcs in? We're saying at this point there's only 2 of them that are alive. Maybe the orcs will be ready to talk. We can use rolls. We can roll for reaction. We can roll for their morale, which is probably low if we even want to roll for that stuff. The players can see that, take advantage of it. Maybe we also have the kobolds who've maybe suffered losses of their own. Maybe there are 9 left, but there used to be 15, something like that. So now we've taken basically what I guess at least Dimlingenrode would say is a boring situation, but now I think it's got a lot more juice to it. Of course, we may want to go through and roll some of those things again, because we've got the kobolds, we've got the orcs. Maybe we want to see, well, what else might the tomb have? We may want to take those and build on it. We don't have to stop there either. If we look at it, ooh, this is a good start, but I need more. Well, maybe I want to throw some undead in there, and I don't need the tables. I'll just say, yeah, I'm going to plunk some undead over there. And I think even in the instructions, and I don't know about and how to stock a dungeon, they talk about, hey, you're going to put in your kind of marquee encounters, the things you want. You're going to place them, and then this is there to fill in the rest of it. So you might say, okay, well, I've got a mummy lord over here, and I've got some zombies over here, and maybe I have a ghost over here. Those are sort of the things I know I'm going to place there. And then I'm trying to fill in the rest of the gaps. This is when this comes in. So I think there might be more to even the results they came up with than Dimlingenrode thought, but it's all about firing our own imagination, so I get it if that doesn't speak to you at the same way it spoke to me. But maybe you got to prompt yourself a little bit more, because I don't know. I'm not sure what table is going to give you what you want until you make it yourself, because you're going to know best what things spark your imagination, as opposed to people who are authoring things that they want to apply to all over the population of gamers. Let's see. Just seeing what's going on in the chat. Ryan Smith says, the power to make your own best table was in you all along. Yep. And then also says, you got to apply your imagination to the random tables. Imagine stuff that isn't explicitly given to you. Yep, absolutely. Marcello says the OSE table is good. It's just simple to use. It's a good starting point. That's great. Pete the Giant. Or is it the same as Pete the Giant? Now it's just Pete Giant. Totally agrees. They use most tables for this sort of prompt to generate ideas. And then Marcello adds on to that, why are they here and when did they arrive? Some of the few questions to add flavor to the standard procedure. Marcello says, there's zombies in them thar hills. Exactly, and then Pete Giant adds on can be useful to use them in conjunction with Spark tables. Yep, and of course you can also use these as a take a couple of rounds of running through the generic tables to then build your own tables. You could literally roll on tables to build more tables, and Spark tables are also good if you like that. It basically just to, if you're not familiar with a Spark table, if you think of an ordinary table that you'd roll and say you need a random monster, you roll down a list and you get number 8, and it would say zombies. A Spark table will generally have multiple. I think I've seen it with 2. I don't know if there's more than 2, but you might have zombies or man-eating rats, and then you would pick one. And I think the nice thing with a Spark table is it allows you to put more options, but without making ginormous tables. So instead of saying, well, I need a D100, I'm going to say, no, I'm going to use a D50, but each one's going to have 2. So I'm still getting choices, and you can also put things next to each other that can be almost opposite or conflicting, so you don't have to worry about, let's say, if you didn't want it, you wanted to make sure that you didn't get zombies and skeletons. If you put them in one entry as a Spark, as in zombies or skeletons, you'll be assured that you'll never get zombies and skeletons, right? Because you have to choose one. Stuff like that. Good stuff. So here's the list of things that Dimlingenrode is looking for. 1, tables of the one weird, unique thing about this dungeon is themed stocking lists to provide a bit more cohesion to the results, or alternatively, juxtapositions to provoke creativity. That juxtapositions are often good. Spark tables are good for that also. Something to help make the treasure results something more engaging than piles of coins. Good tables that give more direction to the special and trap results. Well, there's a lot there. I mean, this is great stuff, but I think the thing is that stuff's hard to make. It is hard to make those, and especially hard to make them that are going to have cross appeal. Give that one a vote. These are certainly things you can do, but you're probably gonna, if you have one table, a theme stocking list, and the theme is going to be this weird, unique thing, you're going to have to probably find these together. Otherwise, no one's got the book of like a billion tables. Oh, my theme is vampire dwarves. And then to have look here, here's a stocking table for vampire dwarves. It's not going to work that way. You're going to get tables that are going to give you all kinds of weird things, but then you're going to have to take that step and either roll on a generic stocking list and then think about how that works in the theme that you have, or make your own theme list. It's going to be really hard to get both of those all together. P-Giant says they tend to use Spark tables in 2 columns of 20 with keywords of the setting, then roll twice and interpret the results in conjunction with other tables. Yep, that's good. I think that's the key thing that they need to look at, which is that interpretive thing. So here and Zoffy Zup, X Coffee, X Cup, I don't know, is asking the kind of questions that really Dimlingenrode could, which is, hey, you've got kobolds and orcs. Why are they both here? What are they doing? What are the relations between the two of them? If there's a little loot, what happened to the loot? Did some of the orcs get out with the loot? Are they coming back with reinforcements? Did the kobolds hide the loot somewhere else? And maybe you're going to find one of that piece of loot is the treasure map that's going to lead back to the kobold horde. Really lots of interesting things. You just got to open your mind and ask those questions and be ready to. Because I think sometimes maybe the issue is, I think some people look at it and they go, oh, great, OSR tables. That tables are going to solve all our problems and just give everything. We're just going to roll 3d6 and everything's going to be revealed. And that's not really it. It's a lot of getting tables, asking questions of the results, maybe rolling on more tables, getting more answers or more questions, and then sort of crossing them with these other things you asked. And then you get this kind of tapestry that you hopefully can make sense out of. There's probably more that could be done with not really giving you the tables, since there are tons of those, but trying to maybe give people the questions they should be asking. Hey, roll on this one and you're going to roll on that one. And I don't care which tables you're rolling on, but then about those results, ask yourself these questions. That wasn't terrible. Let's see. Any old school games that allow a lot of character customization? I responded in the other day. I think I mentioned Glog. All right, this might be good. It's been flared discussion, so let's hope that it is discussion. It's actually a question. Hessek posted about Tomb of the Bull King. Has anyone ever played or ran this mega dungeon? If so, how's the experience? I'm thinking of running it. They're thinking of running it, but they would like more opinions first. I don't know anything about Tomb of the Bull King. Okay, it's a module for mazes and minotaurs. And Bryce from 10 Foot Pole gave it a good score. Okay, well, I wish there was more things to discuss. P Giant, asked me if I ever used story dice. I have P Giant. In fact, there's a video. It's an older one now, but on looking at Rory story cubes I did sort of a double feature. I talked about story cubes, and then also I forget one of the GM, the sort of what is it? One of those GM systems where you can ask it to where like the book or the tool can take on the role of the GM. I'm forgetting the name of it and I'm forgetting what they call it, but GM emulator. My brain's working. And GM emulator and Rory story cubes. They are useful. And I wish that so I have a bunch of the physical one. They're not around, otherwise I'd pull them out. But I do like them. And they do have them digitally, which is handy because you don't have to carry around a big thing of giant. I mean, they're nice, chunky dice cubes, but they're also a little bit unwieldy to have a bunch of them around. And there is a digital version, but I feel like they're kind of pricey on the digital side. And you don't get them for having the physical ones, so that's a little bit of a bummer. There's my video from the other day that I posted. White box plus Spelljammer. I'm curious, even though I'm not familiar with FMAG yet. Hold on. Wait a minute. I think I finally got this embedded in my brain. Okay, white box, fantasy, medieval, adventure, game. I think that's it. FMAG. White box FMAG. If this is something more than just asking questions. Okay. No, I don't have anything for you. 3d6 in a line. Time, gear, and skill, a different approach to skill checks from the Dice Goblin blog. Let's take a look at that. I don't actually think I read this in advance either. I think I just upvoted it just to be nice. All right, let's post this into the chat. Here we go. Action. We've got some action, ladies and germs. Elfbait is late. You're late, but that's all right. Time, gear, and skill. I'm taking a swig of blood orange tangerine spindrift for the working man. There we go. Posted to the Dice Goblin blog from May 11th. The following was written with Cairn in mind, but would work just as well for Into the Odd, Electric Bastionland, and heck, D&D 5e if you're doing a complete revamp. Performing actions involves time, gear, and skill. Generally, if you have none or one of the three, a task is impossible. If you have all three, you do not need to roll, it just succeeds. If you have only two, the task might involve a save with time or your gear being at stake if you fail. Environmental factors / opportunities might act as a substitute for gear or skill. All right, so here we have the generic write-up. So you have time, gear, and skill. If you have no time and you have no gear or you have no... hold on. You have three things. Time, gear, and skill. If you have none or one of the three, a task is impossible. So if you only have time, that's interesting because I don't know if that doesn't make sense to me. Because if you have oodles of time, you can get a lot done even if you don't have the skill or the gear. If you give me a padlock and essentially leisure, I'll probably finagle a way to get it open if I have enough time. If I've got the time, I could probably figure it out. Though maybe someone would say if I was using some kind of tool, then I would say, well, that's the gear. Or is the tool the specific gear like a lockpick? And we'll see the example, but I'm just thinking there's some things that given enough time, you'll probably figure out a way up. I mean, there are some things where I would say, oh yeah, it's not true. Like you can put me up against a cliff, tell me to climb to the top, give me weeks, give me months. If I don't have any gear and I don't have any skill, I'm not getting up the top of the cliff. Maybe I'll figure out how to get around the cliff and get to the top without having to scale it. But if I have to scale it, I'm not scaling it. Other things, that would work. But maybe you could figure out that, okay, you generally have the gear then. If the gear is just your fingers and hands, then you have two of the three, and then it doesn't apply. We'll see. If you have three, you have the time, you have the gear, you have the skill, you don't need to roll. And then if you only have two, you have time and skill, gear and skill, time and gear. You have to roll, and maybe you have to either risk the time, which is kind of interesting. I guess we'll see what that means. Or the gear, which makes sense. You break your lock picks, something else, whatever goes wrong. And then the the thing here is environmental factors / opportunities may act as a substitute. So if I'm not sure what some environmental factors are, but I'm sure we could think of some. What I'm curious about is, well, what about the inverse? What if there's something that's making it more difficult? I suppose if time is one of them, then you don't have the time. You just take that off the table. So you better have gear and skill because you can't spend the time. Might be one. I'm not sure if it was a different factor. Like, let's say you're trying to climb the cliff face, and normally you've got time and skill, but now it's slippery. Does it being slippery affect one of those? Does that negate your skill, or what does it do? Not sure at this point. Let's look at their example. Oh, they only have one example. So the example is lockpicking. Lockpicking a door requires no roll if you are skilled at lockpicking, are not in a hurry, and have lockpicking tools available. Lockpicking a door might require a dex save if you're in a hurry, yet have the skills and the tools, with the risk being not finishing the task in time. It could also involve a will save if you have time and skill, yet no tools, and you're trying to improvise your tools. Lockpicking a door is impossible with only one of the three. You could stare at a lock all day with all the time in the world, but without gear and skill, nothing is going to happen. You could be a skilled lockpicker, but in a hurry and without tools, there's not much you can do. Or you might have lockpick tools, but without time to figure out how to use them, there's no way you'll manage it without skill. Well, it's interesting. I'm not sure I actually really like the concept, but I think this is something, and maybe I'll do this in the forums or something, my forums, not YouTube's forums, to kind of break this down a little bit, because I think there are some things in there I could really see being useful. I don't know if I would just say, well, it's impossible. I might say that you just get degraded to a point. So let's use an example. Okay, well, let's just say we're doing something like Lamentations where everything is X and 6, and say you're a thief. So you're not just 1 and 6, you're 3 and 6 on lockpicking. So that's 3 and 6 in lockpicking. And maybe there's an assumption there that you have basically everything you need. Or I'm not even sure at that point what the 3 and 6 would be. But basically, I was trying to think about, is there a way to shave off where you're shaving off numbers? So you don't have any of the 3. Now as soon as you get to 0 of 6, you're toast, right? So maybe we're saying that the skills, when you have a skill of 3 in lockpicking, that's presuming you got the time and you have the tools, and then the skill is represented by the number. So you'd say 3 and 6 means that if I have a 3 and 6 in lockpicking, that means with lockpicking tools, I've got a 50% chance of busting open a lock. If I'm at 3 and 6 skill and I don't have the tools, now I'm at 2 and 6. If I'm at 2 and 6 and I don't have the time, now I'm in 1 and 6. So that would give, hey, you're a thief. Can you jerry-rig some way to get through this lock? You've got a 1 in 6 chance. Now we go to the fighter. Fighter's got a base 1 in 6 chance. That's presuming they've got tools. And then you say, I don't have, and now you're saying, well, I don't have the tools, or I don't have the time, because it's presuming you have the time also. Well, then you start breaking it down. Well, I don't have the time and I don't have the tools. As soon as I hit 0, if I don't have one of those things, I'm down to 0 and I'm out. Something like that I can see working. This is for a very simple system. I do like it, right? Because it's very easy to say, okay, you need time, skill, and tools. And then the situation will present itself and you can say, well, you don't have your lockpicks. You left them in the hotel room. Or you don't have time, there are orcs breathing down your neck. Or you're not a skilled lockpick, right? You can just sort of break it down and then very quickly come up with, you got everything, great, don't roll. Ooh, 2 out of the 3, you got to roll something. And I do like that you may use different things. It's not just a dex roll or something for everything. It could be, if you've got, depending on what you have, will change what you're rolling, which is also very cool. But I don't know if I like the flat, like impossible to whatever. I might want to grade it out, because I think I want to have, if you're the master lockpicker, if you're a 5th level thief, I want you to have a chance, even if there's no time. You know, I mean, it's a trope in the fiction. There's no time, and then someone's able to just bang it open, or they're not. But I wouldn't want to. I'd want to have some way of maybe degrading a little bit more granularly than just impossible. But it is cool. Brian Smith says it's like the quality, speed, cost concept. Yep, exactly. Low quality but fast and cheap. Right. I think that in this case, the only thing I don't like is it goes to basically nope, where I like a little bit more options there for the person that's most skilled. For someone who's essentially not skilled in it, I'm totally in with just saying, hey, you don't have 2 of the 3 things or whatever, you're out. Pete Giant says they like the idea conceptually. It has good, strong keywords that are easy to grasp. Yep, I do like that. I'll have to come back and fiddle with that a little bit later. But that was time, gear, and skill. Well done. I did upvote it. Oh, I already saved that, so I knew I was going to come back to that. That was posted by Mr. Kittenman, so well done. Let's see, what are we at now? What do we got now? Custom soundtracks. Easy hex crawl map generation. Let's take a look. What's this? What's this? It's a scrawly drawing of the Ihu Peninsula. Okay, but what does it mean, max damage? Or max damage 1. Let's see if we got some comments here. So max damage 1 posted this easy hex crawl map generation. Did you know that most people can't identify well-known shapes or figures if you rotate them 90 degrees? I teach middle school and explaining to my students that you always need to orient your map using the compass rose part of our map skills unit. I rotate states, countries, cities, etc., and they fail to identify them most of the time. This came to mind when I began planning my hex crawl. What if I just use Ohio? Printed a simple map, traced it, put in major roads, added cities and real landmarks, and it's done. It took me 15 minutes. There are mountains, forests, caves, a fort, and more. All you really need to do is adjust the mileage scale, and you've got it. Let me know what you think. And Remton J. Duliak commented, take a map of a small archipelago, invert land and water, use the islands, now lakes, contours to add lakes to the map you just created with Ohio. And then Seeft said that Gary Gygax did this with his first campaign. Greyhawk was placed where Chicago is in real life. I think that is true. And I think Gamma World is that too. Gamma World, I don't even know if it's supposed to be the kind of post-apocalyptic US, but I think that's what the map is. Brian Smith says that they can't stomach building an entire Fire Fantasy world on Cleveland. Oh, Brian Smith with the verisimilitude. I'm not going to read it. Giant, going back to the tools, time, and gear blog post says, I like the specialist from Lamentations of Flame Princess with pips as a grade of skill. I also add that anyone can try a skill, but depending on how difficult a task is, the dice may be higher. Yep. I do really like the Lamentations specialist. Yeah. And it's not a bad thing to just go with the X and 6. You have to fix if you're using just your regular BX thief, you kind of got to fix the progression, and maybe you need a larger die type depending on how you want those to scale. I like to really think of the classes as being done at about 10th. So you could figure that gives, if you're starting at 1 from 5, maybe every 2 or 3 levels, they get another pip. So they get 1, 2, and then they end up at 5 of 6. I guess if I always like to always have a chance of failure, or you could just say 6 of 6, and then just, it's that, hey, if there's nothing modifying it, no environmental factors or anything making it more difficult, then they're just going to get it. Could also work. You can do various things like that. Oh, Tuckatan thought the city was built on rock and roll. Oh, but isn't that in Cleveland? I mean, that's what Huey Lewis in the News told us, right? They say the heart of rock and roll is in Cleveland. Isn't that dating myself horribly? Huey Lewis in the News. Look it up, kids. You'll be, I'm not going to say amazed, but that's a cool, using a map, turning it, twisting it, turning it into something new is cool. And I do like that they did it in a very simplistic fashion. You didn't have to go onto like whatever QGIS or one of those crazy high-res geography tools and do it. Just draw it in rough, pull it out of Google Maps or something, create your scale that you like, and go. White Hack is great. Okay, some Vaults of Varn play report. All right. Let's see. If you folks see something you want me to look at, feel free to point it out to me. Here's one. I think I looked at this earlier, but I can go back because I don't think I looked at the actual tool. Auto-generated dungeon. 2 creatures. Hallway. Empty treasure. Or it's not even 2. It's room 1, empty with treasure. Room 2, creature. I hope that's not all the auto-generated dungeons can give us. Okay, this was an auto-generated. So Rangar Roinudge sharing a dungeon generator from another Redditor named Camaxtililopez. And then the tool we'll go take a look at is in another spot, and there's another post about it, which I think may give some explanation. Maybe we should read the explanation first. All right, so this is based on Greyhawk Games Map Gen. The tool performs only the steps that can be automated, ignores the manual steps. For that, you could enhance it to allow the user to edit the map manually. The first edition AD&D DMG had an algorithm for generating random dungeons. It was also proposed for use in solitaire games. That algorithm got a lot of use in the decades since it was published, and the consensus is that it does not work very well. It generates wacky results and requires lots of manual intervention. The WWN algorithm is 100% robust, but generates less interesting output. It never generates invalid dungeons or requires manual intervention. The rooms appear in a gridded pattern connected by tunnels that follow the 8 points of the compass. The larger the number of rooms, the more you converge on a full pattern, with every point on the grid occupied by a room with the maximum number of possible connections to all of its neighbors. The size and shape of the rooms is left unspecified, and I've just drawn them as 4x4 squares. All right, so it's basically taking the dungeon creator from the DMG and just doing a very simplistic. So you would have to fill in all this stuff, right? It's not even. I think even the hallways and those connections. It's probably. I would imagine it's, even though they're putting a grid on here. I almost figure it would have been better just take out the grid, because I don't. The room shapes are not scaled because they didn't put in the shapes of the rooms. I'm guessing that the hallways are also not scaled, so it's just generic. This is almost more of a mind map of a dungeon. So we don't even need the grid, really. Just connect them. But we get, and I'd have to go back and look at that thing to remember what a distractor means here. But it's a couple of empty rooms, some distractors, some hazards, and some more empty rooms. So not the most exciting dungeon. Brian Smith says, I would never use this. Yes. So here's the use case, I think, for this, is if you want to use the DMG, AD&D DMG dungeon generator. I think Terrence, hey Terrence, says that they're waiting for Dungeon Dash to just deliver monsters to their door. Could be. And then, let's see, PGI says, not to open edition war, but I do think in general the OSR is much more useful content. Yeah, I mean, there is a lot of good old stuff in there, but this is like taking the most basic part of that useful stuff and throwing it out there, when even the generator itself gives you more information. I think gives you some starting room types. The 5th edition DMG has a version of that also. So it's cool. I mean, I'm glad they did it. Maybe this is something that probably needs to be just fleshed out. It's not going to replace a lot of the tools that are out there, but it's neat that they're doing it. Here's one that's, look at that mega size. That's a big dungeon. I do like that you're getting a lot of multiple connections, which is cool. It'd be interesting to take one of these. Maybe one time we'll go through and actually use the AD&D dungeon generator, but probably maybe part of the dungeoneering 101 we'll use some of the whoa, this is really zoomed in, old school generators to see what kind of stuff we get. Ooh, look at that. Crazy. I mean, I know that some of the things that have gone out of vogue from these, the amount of empty rooms. Now, granted, I always think that the empty rooms shouldn't just be empty. You should stock them with stuff and give them some atmosphere and some concept of what they are, what they were, and whatnot. But you do end up getting a lot of empty rooms. This is a big cluster right here. Creature, treasure, and a distractor. Creature and a treasure. A hazard, empty with treasure. Creature down here. A lot going on there. Oh, I should probably take off that. Bloop. All right. Appreciate it. Maybe not super useful to us at this moment. It's got possibilities. There's a question about handling hirelings posted by Ekin Specs. Ekin Specs says, I'm running a Mouse Ritter campaign, Mouse Ritter based on Into the Odd / Bastion Light system. My 4 PCs have 6 hirelings / allies. Any general advice on how to handle them, especially when it comes to combat and or saves? So, something specific is in Mouse Ritter. PCs roll for initiative against their will stat. If they pass, they go before the enemy. If not, they go after. Now there are 6 hirelings. Should I have them do a group initiative roll? Should I give them each 1 or 2 hirelings to manage? The hirelings are fairly motivated, except for the guide, who I think would want to avoid combat for the most part. Okay, I guess this is I can't I doubt Ika's case 6 hirelings. They oftentimes particular PCs are going out and searching for the hirelings. So whichever hirelings they hired, maybe they would control. So the fighter went out and got themselves a torchbearer and maybe a squire type or something. So then that fighter would control those 2 in combat. The thief, whatever, they picked up somebody else, that person they control. Or maybe the fighter hired the mercenaries and they're hiring the mercenaries. Well, you can, of course, scramble that however you like. But then out of those 6 hirelings, they're attached to different PCs. Those PCs, those players then control those hirelings. I personally control the hirelings myself. I like it. To me, I like that it really enforces and reinforces that the PCs have to be the ones in charge. So what will happen with mine is that the players will characters start doing stuff, and then the hirelings are oftentimes they're waiting. they're like, how does this look for us? Does it look good? And I make my characters yell out, hey, come on, like, Axeman, attack that guy or do something. I make them really give the orders and not count on the hirelings just jumping into action straight away, especially if the hirelings win initiative. If they're in some kind of combat situation or maybe about to be combat situation, hirelings win initiative, they're not going first. They're deferring. They're looking to see, like, what are our leaders doing? I'm not jumping in the fray and then this guy's going to run to the back or something. I'm waiting to see. So that's me. And for the hirelings, I generally will roll once for all the hirelings. In this system, you're rolling against your will stat. I don't know. Maybe I'll just roll a 50-50. Maybe, I don't know what the will stat is. I haven't read Mouse Ritter. I don't remember Into the Odd what your stats are like. Maybe you could give them some kind of group roll. Maybe you could have them roll with the PCs, or always, you could do something that, hey, hirelings always go last if you want to, which would probably work well. Actually, I think I might even do that. Hirelings just go last. Monsters and PCs are going to jockey for who goes first. Hirelings will always go as the last party. Either if the PCs lose, then, or regardless, right? I guess it seems to be that it's in individual order, so it'll be, PCs, some variation of some PCs, some of the monsters, and then other PCs, depending on whatever it is. At the end of the round is when your hirelings go off. Might be just a super simple rule. You can, and I have done it when there's only a couple hirelings, is roll them separately, because I think that can be really add to things when they're going on different orders. But now that I'm up to having 5 or 6 in the mix, I just have been rolling group initiative. But that's me. Other folks may do things differently. Whoa, a whole bunch of stuff going on here. Pete Giant says they do whatever the player/GM finds simplest and quickest. Yep. Indeed. And Krister, I think you might be responding to one of the other stories that we might have passed about someone finding their way back to RPGs after many years through OSR. Yeah, that was a nice story. That was, if I'm thinking about what Krister's thinking of, it was, I think it went, we were on a different page, but there was a nice story about that. I don't remember where it is now. No, where is it? I can't remember, but yeah, there is a nice story. I'll just go back and find it, because let's see. Here we go, this one here. I'm not going to read it, but it is a nice long story. I encourage you, if you are someone who goes to the OSR Reddit, go read it. It's a nice thing. It's basically, they played long ago. They kind of, a lot of people that kind of it sort of fell by the wayside. And there was kind of a tragedy with one of their friends passing away. And all these things they first tried to 5th edition, but it really didn't work for them. But then they somehow, looking at something on 5th edition or whatever, they found that OSR was a thing that existed. And now they're finding their passions fired again, which is cool. Let's see. What else have we got? The best edition? Oh boy, going nuclear tonight. You better believe it if you're asking questions like what's the best edition. All right, here's something that might be cool. Someone, aka Adam A. Hensley, said that they made some optional modular rules for Cairn. Oh, let's see. Is this? Well, we can take a look. It looks. I'm wondering if it's the pay product. I can't buy it at the moment. But they said that. So here's their post here on Reddit, and we'll go take a look at their itch in a minute. They made the Cairn Adventures Guide late last year. They added a couple of new rules today. They thought they'd share the link here. These are basically house rules that they compiled for their own use that they decided to lay out and share with anyone else who might find them useful. The rules are, by and large, they're not really taking ownership of them, but you know, the collection that we always do of borrowing and retrofitting and suiting to taste. Some rules in the supplement are they have some dungeon turn procedures, wilderness turn procedures, XP for gold leveling up, some carousing rules, vices, which I guess they added today, and some advanced combat options. They took a lot of inspiration from the many fabulous designers of the OSR community, along with support and assistance from the fine folks in the NSR Discord. Hopefully some folks find it useful. All right, we'll take a look. I will post the link. Oh, look at that. It's gratis. This is the Cairn Adventures Guide. And I suppose we'll take a look at it. We've got about 10 minutes or so. Why not? Download the booklet. Yeah. I'm not sure what separates the booklet from the guide. Yeah. I don't. Let's see, downloads. Let's open it up. All right, so this is called the Cairn Adventures Guide by Adam Hensley, free on itch, so there's really no reason not to check it out. Probably even if you're not using Cairn specifically, there's probably things we could appreciate here. Let's see if there's a way to. No, that doesn't help. Let's look at we'll look at the first things. I guess I'm going to, how can I minimize? Can I do that? No, I don't like that. How about that? No, that? No. Is there more? What else have I got? Nope. All right. There we go. I'll try this one. First, we have dungeon exploration. Dungeon turns. A dungeon turn is approximately 10 minutes. Dungeon exploration can be turned into a subsystem of managing resources, making strategic decisions, and structuring the dungeon crawl into a sort of minigame. There's an element of pushing your luck as you spend more time searching, checking for hidden things, and lingering in dangerous locations. Time spent always has a cost, and that cost is provoking an encounter roll. These encounters can involve running into monsters, but can also challenge or reward the party in other ways. So now we're given a sequence of player per turn. So you're going to make a d6 roll once every few dungeon turns. So not every turn. But we get a d6 roll every few. I don't know. I might say give it a number. So we say 3. Actions. The party decides what actions to take, which would be moving, searching, listening, entering or exiting rooms, things like that. We would describe and resolve what happened. If encounters were rolled, they're going to happen. If 1 was rolled in the encounter die, make a reaction roll and proceed from there. So I guess it's a 1 in 6 chance by default every so often. Dungeon turn movement. Players can move carefully about 200 feet in a 10-minute turn. That's a bit more than I think it's like 120 feet classically. Players moving carefully spot signs of all traps. Traps should be designed to be disarmed or subverted with ingenuity and creative thinking using common sense and inventory. Players can quickly move 600 feet in a 10-minute turn. Players moving quickly may get a chance to roll under their will to notice a trap, GM discretion. Otherwise, they may trigger a trap if it is concealed, usually 1 and 2 on a d6. Adjust as necessary for trap deadliness. I do like this, by the way. That gives you some options. I've seen some other places, and I've thought about adopting this myself with basically, hey, 120 feet is your careful. I will use 120 feet. That's your careful movement. Or maybe that's your standard. Then you'd have 60 that's super slow. In this one, you're going to spot all traps. 120 maybe is our standard if we're just using the classic numbers. And then you might say 240 is fast, but fast, you're not going to be able to see anything. So that you can kind of have built in these player-facing rules that the players can look at and say, okay, we want to go slow, but it's going to take extra time, which we may or may not have. We're going to go normal, great. Or we need to rush. Okay, we're going to rush, but by the way, rushing around, you're going to run into things, traps, all kinds of stuff like that. So that's your, I'm going to hide that so folks can see. So that's your dungeon turn movement. Searching, a quick search takes 1 minute, covering roughly a 30 by 30 space. Again, they've kind of bumped up the numbers here. I usually go with 10 by 10, which I think is also the classic search square footage, and reveals only the most obvious information. A detailed search takes 10 minutes. Oh, okay, so a quick search takes a minute over 10 by 10. A detailed search takes 10 minutes, covering the same space. I'll say, there's a 30 by 30. I think 10 by 10 is what I would probably stick with, but that's just me. And that will get you more detailed, most hidden information. And then you can replace 30 by 30 with small, medium, large, require additional terms to complete a detailed search. I think the only thing I would hear is I maybe want some information, because I don't like these. I'm on rules like this, and granted, this person putting on house rules, but I don't things like every few, most. Give me numbers. Most. Roll for every hidden feature in this room, roll a d6 and then say on a 4 to 6 they found it, something like that. And then you could I could even see having now a hyper detailed one. Hey, you're going to spend forever in this room and you just find everything. Old Team Patrol calls them weasel words. Yeah, I mean, we don't want to impugn the motives of the author, but yeah, just give us numbers. If a few, does that mean 3? Is it, I don't know why, especially with this, we're saying here are the house rules that I use. Do you really just use a few? Is it kind of how you feel like on a given day? Just give us a number. Loaded encounter roll. Roll a d6 encounter die every 2 or 3 rounds at your discretion. Just say 2. You could, and here's another thing. I mean, am I just in an evil mood? I don't know. Here's the other thing. You don't need to tell me at my discretion. Every other sentence, everything. I get it. I can change these rules as I see fit. I'm reading these rules because I want to see what you, the author, whose name is Adam Hensley. I want to know, Adam Hensley, your guidance. What do you use that works for you at the table? I don't need to know that I can change it. I know that I can change it. This whole document is proof that somebody can change it, because that's what you're doing. You're changing it. So you don't need to tell me at my discretion. When do you roll loaded encounter dies? Your loaded encounter rolls, Adam Hensley. Is it 2 rounds? Is it 3 rounds? You tell me which one it is. I want to do it. Ian Boyd, spicy. Maybe I am spicy. It's a spicy Friday. I don't know. And honestly, this is a really great document, and it's free. There's no reason why everyone should be running over to Itch and downloading it, checking it out, even if they're not playing Cairn. But I guess I am spicy today. Pete Giant says they tend to prefer searching to be done narratively and only require roll if the players decide to do it abstractly. Yeah, I think that the narrative part, I think the juice for that, as in with all things, is you get to be targeted, right? If the secret is in the bookcase and you specifically go check the bookcase, I'm likely to just give you the secret. If the bookcase is on the east wall and the character just says, well, I just searched the whole east wall, then a couple things, I'm probably going to say, well, that's going to take you an hour, because that wall is 30 feet long, whereas the bookcase is that 10 foot by 10. So that's going to take you an hour, and whatever, it's going to, and then I'm going to make the roll. Whereas if you say, oh, I'm going to search the bookcase, 10 minutes, and you probably get what's it. P-Giant also says that they like the overloaded die, but they use a D12, same results on 1 through 6, and roll at every qualifying action taken by the players. That's interesting. Old Team Patrol says that I should publish rules with a stern demand that the rules not be changed at the referee's discretion, that they will suffer curses and calamities if they stray from the path. Yes, the one true path rules. You must follow these. I mean, and the funny thing is I think particularly in the OSR, and having read tons of rules, I think we just understand that we can do what we want with them. But I bet you there are people out there. I'm sure that there's the reason why people do that is, I mean, I think individually authors just have a fear of being taken too dogmatically, because the other thing is people are super argumentative, and if you say that, you're likely to think, like, I don't want people commenting, I don't want people adding me with comments about how dare I say 2 rounds, so they want to be sure. It's like, hey, do with these what you will. And I think there's the other thing, that there are probably some people who literally just go by the book, I mean, there's a lot of that in the 5th edition crowd, right? The rules is written. Rules is written didn't say discretion, so it had to be every 2 rounds. That kind of thing. So I get it, but I feel like it gets overused. I'm not trying to blame Adam Hensley for this. It's just, I guess I'm spiced today. It's just stuff I've read. Fluff the Griffin says, a lot of people need to be reminded their game can be run how they want. I know many people that think if you don't run a game as the rules dictate, you're not playing appropriately. Yep, totally. And then Ian says, I haven't read Cairn thoroughly, although they want to. Are these processes adapted directly from Cairn, or are they just adapted from other BX likes? Ian, I actually did a read-through of Cairn. Took over a couple of streams and an interview with the author. So you can, if you're interested, you can check those out. It's been a while, so I don't remember, but I think these are building on Cairn, which does things a bit differently than BX. So I think with all these things, you could apply it pretty much to BX if you wanted to. They're not that different. Brian Smith says it's like including a page in the beginning of a color book that says color at your discretion. Yes. Yeah. And the Fluff of the Griffin comments that they have a friend who thinks the rules is written is the word of law. Yep. I agree. There are definitely those people out there. So I think it's good to put a disclaimer. I put in the front of the book, hey, all these are at your discretion, right? And then we don't have to have it in every paragraph. So here on their loaded encounter roll, on 1, they get an encounter. On 2, they get a sign. On 3, they get a locality. 4, exhaustion. 5, exploration. 6, discovery and treasure. I've messed around. I think I talked about in one of my streams about doing kind of overloaded dice. I do like them. I don't always love them for some things because I like, as a player, I appreciate consistency and the idea that you light a torch and less round it, the torch is gone because you hit the expiration. That kind of luck is almost more luck than needed. There's so much, I guess I feel like as a player, there's so much luck involved in everything, especially if I'm aware, which I make, say, for example, in my table, I make my players aware of, hey, I'm rolling for encounters. All these things are rolling. Dice are rolling, and they're almost always bad. That, as a player, knowing my torch is going to last an hour, unless I do something stupid or whatever, like my torch, we have 6 rounds, 6 exploration turns of light. And that this kind of system, now adding more randomness in there, sure, you could end up with a torch that lasts 12, but you could also end up with 1 or 2, and maybe that's your last torch, and you were counting on it because you knew you could get out in 6 turns, but now you can't because it's just a die roll. Just like that, the kind of, I don't know. I kind of think that they're the things that the players can control like that. I appreciate as a player them having that control because so much else is beyond their direct control. All right, so I'm kind of speeding through this because I'm cognizant that we're already at the top of the hour. We have a reaction roll. We got a table of, hey, things that they might want. Food or aid, gold, treasure, random item, territory. Ooh, that's an interesting one. Information, help, trade, mission, a mission, or direction. I like that. That's literally they're lost. That's a great one. Definitely pull that one out. I mean, I pull all these out, but that's one that's really goes definitely underutilized. The fact that the monsters might be lost. And if your players have been mapping and they've got the map and they could really, that could be something they could bargain with. Maybe these creatures in here don't know how to get out anymore. Ian said, so many RPGs, so little time to play. I agree, Ian. I agree. Now we got some stuff on wilderness exploration. Hex crawling. See, here it is. Look, boom. In there. Strong move. Decisive. Hexes represent 6 miles. Boom. We don't need to say 5 or 6 or whatever you want. They just say 6 because that's what they use. And I know I can change it to 5, 8, 12, whatever I want. He's got his hex size. He's throwing it out there. But bam, bam, bam. You can explore. You might have events. You might have some resolution. Again, I'm speeding through. Exploration. We can travel. We might get an event. It's got some leveling up stuff. It's got a carousing table. Carousing is good with some mishaps and misfortunes. I like vices. Vices serve as both character growth and a way to pressure PC's pockets and keep them continuing to adventure and acquire wealth to support their vice. PCs start out with a group debt. A vice is a nice way to continue bleeding their wealth after they pay off their debt. You have to satisfy vices. You have to appease them once a week. Could be gambling, could be alcohol, could be faith, could be luxury. I think that's a... Is that how you spell luxury? I think that's a typo. I think it's Luxury. Drugs could be something weird, could be an obligation, could be an ambition. I like these. The one thing that I would say is I think I'd have an option for character generation where you can adopt a vice, but then get something back in return. I like that concept of maybe you are a little bit good at this, then but you also have this weakness. Pete Giant asks if I've looked through Mouse Ritter. I have not. It's kind of on my list. I guess there's a Kickstarter that's just fulfilling, so I've seen it called out a few times. I am curious about it, but no, I haven't played it. I have heard it's got a lot of good stuff. Ian tells me, yes, luxury. It is Luxury. Good to know. And we got a couple other things, some advanced combat options, magic damage, special materials. And then that's it. But bam, bam. Well, there you go. The Cairn Adventures Guide. Posted to itch at adamhensley.itch.io. Thanks everybody who hung out on your way out. If you give us a thumbs up, that'd be awesome. If you like these and you're not subscribed, go ahead and subscribe. I don't have anything else to add. Pete the Giant says, or Pete, I keep wanting to say Pete the Giant. Pete Giant says free to download the PDF for Mouse Ritter. I'll check it out. It's on my list. Yeah, I think I'm gonna wrap it up here. Everyone have a tremendous weekend. I think we did a better job than I had thought. I had thought I'd really be struggling for material, but this Cairn Adventures Guide really helped out, and there was a couple other good things in there. So everybody, take it easy. Game on, and I'll talk to you later.